My name's Shannon Brody, and you are in the Pilmma Mastermind group for August. The Mastermind topic for today is management processes and how to, first of all, how to access the templates that we have in TouchStone for some key managerial processes, both in the Pilmma libraries and in the TouchStone General Library. And then more importantly, how to use those management processes in TouchStone. So how to get the most of them by using them inside of TouchStone itself. So what you're looking at right now is called the login screen or the dashboard. And this is what you're going to see when you first log into TouchStone. Normally, you would have a control panel set up right here, but I've removed it just so towards the end when I show you how to use the management processes, I can show you how to set it up and use it. So we're going to move away from here now and go to the 4 key functions. I'm just clicking in the left-hand navigation here. So this is called the 4 key functions. And for those of you who don't know, this is where you document your processes. So this is one of the main tools inside of TouchStone, and all of the processes you put into TouchStone or download from the libraries will be here in the 4 key functions in one section or another. Right here at the top, this is called Guiding the Business. And as we define it, this is for strategic and managerial processes. So these are processes that you would use to guide the company. The orange box right here is called Getting the Business. And these will contain processes for advertising and sales, so getting new business in the door. Doing the business is your operations, so the delivering of your law services or legal services. Running is the office processes. So this is going to be for finance, administration, IT, processes that are used to support the entire company. That's generally what office processes do. Right here in Guiding the Business, this is where all of the employee management processes are. So here in Guiding, because you use employee management processes to guide employees, so to get the best out of them, to get results through them, that's why these processes are here in the Guiding the Business function. If you don't like the getting, doing, guiding, running terminology, this little black edit pencil will allow you to change it. So it's totally fine. If you'd rather just call this management or call it strategy and management, you can. So we're in Guiding the Business again, and I know that because right here I can see it in black. It says Guiding the Business. Also, these other functions here, here, and here, getting, doing, and running, all appear in this row, and I could toggle back and forth between the two. So inside of Guiding the Business, you definitely need an employee management subfunction. That's what you're looking at right here, this area. So right under here, under subfunctions, you can add a subfunction, or you can edit any ones that are there, and create one for employee management if you don't have this. So these are managerial processes that are used with the entire company. So every employee, these processes are used with. Sometimes within departments, you may have managerial processes that are just related to that department. So there might be advertising things or reports or meetings that are just related to advertising or to the production or operations department. So these are isolated and for everyone company-wide. There's a benefit to having managerial processes that every manager uses with every employee. And the benefit is all the employees get managed in the same way. They all get the opportunity to be managed well within the company, and there's a similarity between how each department manages each employee, how each manager manages each employee. I'm sure you've all been in business environments where there's like a terrible manager that doesn't really know how to manage and is too busy to do anything managerial, yet they're still the manager. And then you might have another manager who went to business school and has got like a lot of great techniques and tips for working with people, very personable. Everybody loves that manager. So that disparity you feel it in the company culture. So what these managerial processes can do, again, is they can help build this consistent management philosophy, this consistent management style. Here in the process libraries, we have a lot of great managerial processes. You're seeing them right here in this subfunction. So all the processes you see here have come from the libraries. Even these over here have all come from the libraries. So these, I'm going to focus on just two key managerial processes that I think are really important. But I just want to make sure you know there are more. There are many more that you can pull. Sometimes it's better to have less. So if you throw 10 new management processes at your managers, it's going to be harder to implement all of those. So if you're thinking, what are two key things that we can create a process around and require every manager to use it? Number one, I would say, is a performance review process. So I've got this one here from the Pilmma library. And then, where's the other one? And then there's also one from, oh, here it is. There's also one from the TouchStone library. So they're right here at the top, these two. So if you go here, add from process library, and you go down to the Pilmma general law library, you're going to see this one called employee performance appraisal. If you go to our library, right down here at the bottom, the TouchStone library, under general processes, and choose that, then you'll see in the E section, and it's grayed out because it's already in my account, but this is the TouchStone employee performance review process. So I'm going to show you both and kind of describe what's in each of them. So number one process, managerial process that we're going to talk about right now, is performance review. Now, why I think performance review is so essential is it gives the manager time to to sit with the employee at least once a year and talk about how they're doing, to give real, concrete, tangible, useful feedback to the employee. Performance reviews aren't just about whether they're going to get a raise or not. I mean, I think that employees, depending on how you've done it in the past, may assume that or want to hear about that in their review, but it doesn't have to be about that. I think what it's about is the manager proving that they've been paying attention to the employee as a person and as a worker all throughout the year, and that they have tangible, clear, concrete feedback to give that employee to help make them a better person in some situations, but definitely a better employee. The manager's the teacher, and the teacher has to pay attention to the student in order to give them feedback that's going to help them grow. Now, that's what a really great manager does. They help their employees to be better technicians, better at their craft, better at their work that they're doing, but they also encourage them to grow and decide what they need to do to then get to that next level. So all of this great stuff can happen in a performance review, and it should happen in a performance review. Performance reviews can be once a year. They could be twice a year, every 6 months. I've seen some of the best companies I've worked for and seen do performance reviews 2 times a year. And it's just this moment where the manager sits down and really gives the employee effective feedback. So here's the TouchStone performance review process. I'm just going to click on it. Over here to the left are the templates that are available inside that have been built or used for this process. Now you'll notice with a lot of the library processes, we give you options sometimes for how you can use it. So here, this is a performance review form that's in the uploaded file section. And that just means this is a Word document that's been uploaded to TouchStone. So I could hit view file here and see this Word document would open, and then I could use that template as my performance review, and then I could print it and save it, and I could actually re-upload it back to TouchStone if I wanted to. But it's a Word document to use. This is another option down here. This is the custom form tool. And if I click here, you'll see this custom form. So this is a similar template to the uploaded file here, but this is an actual form that inside of TouchStone that can be used inside of TouchStone. And I'll show you what I mean by that towards the end. All that's done on the dashboard. So when you see things like this in the managerial process or in the library processes where there's an uploaded file, sometimes there's a document, sometimes there's a custom form, and they look to be all the same thing, it's just because we're giving you options. We're giving you different ways to decide how you want to use the form. So up here at the top, this work plan gives a step-by-step for how to set up for the performance review. So it's pretty straightforward. You create the performance review itself. You schedule it. You instruct the employee to complete their own performance review form and bring it to the meeting. So this process gives you the option of allowing the employee to review themselves. So there's a form for that here, and there's also a form for that here. So you don't have to do it this way, but this is just, it's an option. The manager's coming with their review, and the employee reviews themselves and comes with their own assessment of how they think they did. And sometimes that opens up the conversation a little more, because if the employee disagrees with what the manager's saying, well, then this is a time to talk about it. And you want to talk about it, because that's how you clear things up, and that's how you get on the same page, and how the manager grows and the employee grows at the same time. So that's what 4 is about. The performance review is done, so you perform the evaluation. You discuss any bonuses and raises if that's part of it. If you don't want this to be part of it, or you don't want them to fill out their own performance evaluation form, you just click right here and then just delete this task or edit it. So all of these library processes, everything you're looking at is all customizable. You just click and then I edit it. So during the review, the manager is discussing the employee's strengths and areas that need improvement. They get signatures on the form. The employee signs it. They schedule the next evaluation, and then they file it. So this is just basically a pretty simple step-by-step. Down here below, this is called the expectations section, and this just gives some standards or some rules about the review. So the performance review will occur annually. An employee will given at least 1 week to review and evaluate their own position if you decide to do that. The entire form will be completed. I think this is an important one, number 3, because oftentimes if managers aren't prepared, they'll leave stuff blank and just put like NA by it when they don't have anything to say. So the review has to be filled out completely. Comments will be written in the comment section. If the grade is below a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So I think comments should always be written in the comment section. This proves that the manager is not just making this up because they don't remember. They have concrete evidence and examples of why they put that grade in, whether it's good or bad. Previous performance evaluations will be reviewed for the employee prior to the manager giving the grading, so you look back at other reviews. This, by the way, is a good reason to do these inside of TouchStone. When I do performance reviews, I'll go, and I'll show you an example of this, but I'll go to the dashboard here, and I'll run a report of that particular employee, and I'll see every review I've ever done for them, right inside of TouchStone, in order, right there for me to access. And I can click on it and review it and see, oh, okay, this is what happened last year, and I can go back as far as I want. I don't have to go to HR and request the form, and it's all here for me. And because of the user restriction and rights inside of TouchStone, I'm the only one who can see it, can see that review once I've saved it, other than my manager, who the person above me on the org chart. So this is just a step-by-step for how the review should go. This next work plan is how to create the review form itself. So that was task 1 in this first work plan, create the evaluation form. So how we do this in TouchStone is we use the job description as the basis for the evaluation. So we use the job description. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go to the org chart. So let's say I'm the office manager here. I go to bookkeeper, somebody that I manage. Now this is the bookkeeper's job description. So these are the processes that the bookkeeper is accountable for. This is the work that she or he does. That's what the job descriptions become in TouchStone. These really clear, succinct lists of exactly what this person does. If we look inside of any of these processes here, like this one, say, there's work plans and a step-by-step for how to create the budget. So if you've gotten that far with your documentation, then you can see where these job descriptions become really excellent tools for the employee and also the manager. So I had a Pilmma member ask me yesterday after a training, which it was a good question. After we document all this stuff, what are we supposed to do with it? What happens to it? What's it for? And it's not a naive question. I think it's an honest question. The primary answer to that is, number one, the documentation is for training. It's for training the bookkeeper, making sure that he knows exactly how he's supposed to run payroll, pay accounts receivable, extend credit, create the financial statements. He knows exactly how to do all this work. So it's for training. The job description itself, even if you didn't have any of this documentation, is a useful thing to, even if it was just a list of processes that weren't done yet, it's still extremely important because the documentation tells the bookkeeper, this is what you're accountable for, which is a big thing generally. A lot of employees don't know what they're accountable for. They have a rough idea, but they don't know in its entirety, and oftentimes the manager doesn't even know. They just keep throwing things at the employee. We have time for this, we have time for this, and it just becomes this mess of unaccountability. So the documentation and the processes are used for training. They're also used for management. So the performance review is an example of how you're going to use these processes for management. So the job description itself is what you review the employee on. So this is how you use the documentation yet another way. This is what I'm going to review this employee on. So according to the step-by-step in that performance review process, I would go here and I export this job description to Word. That's what's happening now. So here's the job description in Word. Then I go and just highlight all this. And I just go right-click, copy. I'm going to get rid of that. Then we're going to go back to the performance review process here in Guiding the Business. And then here it is right here. So this step-by-step is laying out what I'm doing right now. So I've copied that job description. Then I go here to the form. So this is an uploaded file. It's called the Manager Master Form. I hit View File, and now this form is going to open. So this is going to be bookkeeper. So you fill out these forms that are highlighted. You can fill out this date and range. And then I click here, and I go right-click, paste. Now I've just pasted all of that content from the job description. I'm just going to delete this. Now I've pasted all the processes from the job description to this position. And you could put spaces, you could fancy it up. You're only going to do this once, because once I've done this form for the bookkeeper, I'm just going to use the same form next year. I don't have to do this every year, cut and paste. You could even fix these rows if you wanted to. I don't really feel the need to do that, but you can. So this is the evaluation form. It gives instructions here on the ratings 1 through 5. And then you're literally going through, the manager is, and saying, okay, payroll, complete monthly payroll. How's she been doing on that? You give the grade and you write the comments. How's accounts receivable been going? Give the grade and write the comments. So you go through every process on the job description, giving a grade and writing comments. So this is what I mean by the performance review. The job description is the performance review. And it makes sense, right? Because this is the work that's been very clear to the bookkeeper that she's accountable for doing. And I'm going to sit with her and go through it and make sure it's happening correctly. We may talk about mistakes that she's made when extending credit or when running payroll. We may look at the documentation of the payroll process during the review and go to places where it needs more detail so that she can follow it more effectively. So in the performance review, we're reiterating and enforcing the value of the documentation. There's also these general factors down here, which I think are useful also. So what's her attitude been like, initiative, dependability. A good manager will do a sincere effort of rating the person in all these categories and then give them examples of how they could do better at dependability or at being a team player or at organization or at responsibility. They would also come back with examples of how that's been done well, these general factors. Through this rating, we may decide that a goal for the employee for next year is to learn how to be a better team player or to be better organized. And then in the review itself, there's a key areas for improvement here. And then there's also goals down here. I'm just scrolling down on the same Word file. So there's goals for the employees. So we may say this employee should take a time management class or research a workshop that she could go to on team, building teams. So, and you can see that these fields go on. Any of these fields you don't like, you can just delete. If you have your own performance evaluation template with things that are similar to this that you like, you could delete all of this and paste your own in there. This section, though, I would probably think that most of you don't have something like this, where you're evaluating specifically each process. So this, you might steal this from our template and then leave the rest. So when I fill this out for the bookkeeper just like this, I'm just going to go, I'm going to save it, file, save as, I'm going to save it as a Word document. You could save it as a PDF. And then I'm just going to name this Master Form Bookkeeper. So I'm saving this changed file, desktop, save. Close all this down. Then I'm going to go back and upload this file. So I'm going to keep this master copy just the way that it is because I might have other employees that I want to create this for. I just go uploaded files here. I'm going to upload that performance review. Paraphrasing it here because I'm such a slow typer. Then I go choose file. Then I go to my computer and find that document on the desktop. Somewhere. There it is. So field, I see it appear right here, and then I hit create file. So now I've just taken that performance review template. I added the work items from the job description. I added all the processes. If this is you, you go down and edit the second section of it just to make sure that you like those extra fields or not, and then save it and upload that whole copy right back to the process under here. Another way to use the template that we have inside of TouchStone is to do it in a custom form. So that's this right here. So I click the custom form, you're going to see the same kind of template. These are filled in on the dashboard. So these are fillable fields. So this is like a form, a performance review form that's been built inside of TouchStone, you might say, as opposed to it being a Word document that you create on your own and then upload. So again, this is just another option for how to do the evaluation form. You wouldn't follow this work plan and go and create the evaluation form out of the job description and cut and paste like you saw me do. Rather, you would go to this form in the dashboard and fill that out right in the dashboard. And I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go back here on the breadcrumb trail. This is a good way to get back and forth from where you are. I call this a breadcrumb trail. I think that's probably an old term for it, but it just leads from the overall 4 key functions, getting, doing, guiding, running, the subfunction that we're in, and the process. If I click back here, it's going to take me right back to where we were, right inside of guiding the business to the employee management subfunction. This second process down here, this is the Pilmma performance evaluation process. So this came from the TouchStone library. This is the Pilmma version. So this is a little different. I think it's got some good content in it, but it doesn't really have like a step-by-step for how to do a performance review. If I click here on this employee performance review, it has a link to the employee manual, which is an employee handbook. And then this attorney one has the same thing. It's in a link to the attorney performing employee handbook. Those 2 handbooks that come from the Pilmma are in the running the business function. If anyone's interested in looking at those, you'll find them in the running the business library, the Pilmma library. This work plan here is just called desirable traits. And this just goes through, the firm has a commitment to hiring only persons who can commit to these traits in their work profession. So I suppose this could be used for hiring, but it could also be used for performance review, because maybe this could be like, I don't know, a list of things that you go over with the employee or look for in the employee. Kind of an elaborate list, but you could, if you like this, you could change the performance review form from that list of traits that you saw in our template to these kinds of things: dedication to service, be an advocate, respect for people as individuals, integrity. So this is just more content that you can use. Here's one on teamwork. So maybe if you're noticing in the performance review that your employee needs some help with leadership, they're not really owning their work or quality or teamwork, then you could use a document like this as the manager to say, let's go over what it means to be a good team leader or to have good teamwork or to focus on quality. And then you could talk about these 8 things with the employee and then leave them with this form to kind of think about. This kind of stuff can really go a long way, because it's hard when you say to an employee, well, you're just not a good team player. You need to be better. Or this position requires effective leadership. Be a good leader. You need to do that. Well, what is a person supposed to do with that? You're not telling them how to be a good leader or how to be a good team player. You're just saying you lack this skill. You need to get better at it. This, on the other hand, a document like this gives them something tangible to think about. Like, this is what leaders do, 1 through 4. Dare to take calculated risks in order to give every member of the organization a chance to dream and tap into creativity with those dreams and embody them. So risks are great, and a good leader takes risks and shows their staff and employees that they're willing to take risks. Loyalty, respect for the client, and employee confidentiality. So if you like the TouchStone performance evaluation process, but you also like this, which came from the Pilmma performance evaluation process, you can take this out of the Pilmma one and move it into the TouchStone performance evaluation, or vice versa. So when you see 2 processes in the libraries, one in the TouchStone library and another in the Pilmma library, and they're similar, you can download both of them and then decide which one you want to keep most of the content of, and then you can piecemeal the other one apart and pull what you want from it and put it into the process you're going to keep. So I would go to this desirable traits. Let's say I want to keep this and make it a part of my performance review. I go here to this icon. It's called Move Process Tool. Select it. Now I'm looking for the process that I want to move this work plan into, what's behind me here. I hit the drop down. I know it's in employee management. I hit the drop down there, and there it is, right at the top, Employee Performance Review. I click it, and then I hit the Save button, And now that work plan, you can see, is gone from this process, the Pilmma process, and it's moved into the other process. The Pilmma process also has these documents in it. So this is called the Attorney Performance Appraisal. And these are forms. They're forms that you can use. You can take from, you can use them just the way they are. So this is going through some work items, like this one says case management needles, fully utilizes needles. Well, there could be a process for that. So in a way, it's kind of referring to something that might be on the job description. But it's more qualities, I would say, somewhat tangible qualities, but more, overarching kind of things to look for in the employee. So quality of work, knowledge and understanding of the work they're supposed to be doing, initiative, organization, and prioritization, acceptance of responsibility, integrity. That's a lot. It's a lot of stuff here. But again, this is just options. It's just all of the content that you find in all the library processes are just giving you ways of doing things. It's giving you an idea of the type of documentation or the structure of a process that you could choose. Personally, I like something that's more objective, like instead of saying job knowledge, to break it apart and say payroll process, accounts receivable, budgeting. Do you know these processes? Are you performing them adequately? So you're doing it by process, which is accomplishing this whole section called job knowledge. So again, this is another thing that you could pull from. You could pull some of the attributes here that you like, or if you like this template, you could use this. You could take this and move it out of this process into the other process. You could cut and paste from it and put it into the other process. When I click on these forms, they open like this. So it's pretty easy to cut and paste from them. So this was the Attorney Performance Appraisal. This is called Develop Plan for Next Appraisal Period. So this is just another section of the form. The TouchStone form had something similar to this. It was called Goals for Next Year or something, but this looks like it's a little, it stands out a little bit more. So again, if you want to make this a part of your performance evaluation form and you've kept the other process that came from TouchStone, you could just pull it out using this icon right here and put it into the other process. This one is called Administrative Staff Performance Review. So I think it's pretty much the same as the attorney one, except for maybe these attributes are a little different. So like here it's saying telephone skills, communication skills. So just more ideas. Here's this one called Management Performance Appraisal. So here, I think it's the same idea. You've got some of these work items are probably the same within the other two, but maybe this one focuses more overall on management. Overall management maintains high quality, reliability of the work. Work demonstrates through care, meets deadlines, work procedures of work, the highest professional quality, can balance productivity with attention to detail, accuracy, and reliability. That's a lot. You can see where it's a lot. There's a whole lot for a manager to be thinking about there. Well, does this person do all those things? I think if you look at it through the lens of each process that manager is accountable for, it might help you to answer a question like this for a person. So what I mean is, if I'm looking at the processes for that manager's job description and there's performance review on it, and recruiting and hiring and training, so those actual processes, I can think about this overall management idea together by looking at it through the lens of each of those processes and saying, well, did she do her performance reviews on time? Are her employees satisfied with those? Do they seem like they're growing together? Did she train all her employees? Let's take a look and see. So this isn't necessarily bad. I just think maybe if a manager is going to do this for real and come up with real examples for it, that looking at it through the process lens is probably useful. And then here's Another one called staff performance appraisal. So again, with all this stuff, if you're looking at any of this and you like it, you just go here, little move icon, hit the drop down here. I know the process I want to move it into is in the employee management subfunction. There it is right on top, employee performance review, and then I save it. So once you've emptied this process of the things that you want from it, definitely go back to, I'm just going back to the guiding the business, and delete it by dragging it to the folder here. I hit delete, and now that one's gone. You don't want to keep two of the same process if you've downloaded those from one from the Pilmma libraries here and then one from ours. Choose one that has the majority of the content that you want, empty the other one of the things that you want from that, and then delete the one that's left. When you delete a library process, it puts it back into the library. So you can always go back here and pull that Pilmma process down again and take a look at that information you decided not to take the first time if you choose. But what it leaves you with is a pretty, straightforward, clear performance review process. So here's that desirable traits, because we moved it in here. I could just move this to the bottom. And then here's that form, that document that we moved in. So this is performance review. I'm going to talk about one other managerial process before we run out of time, and then I'm going to show you how a manager can use all of this on the dashboard. So the second managerial process that I think is key is something like this. This is called one-on-one meeting. So this is really simple. It's meant to be simple. It's really just a process for how a manager sits down occasionally on a regular basis. Well, those two words conflict. I'm going to choose regular basis to meet with their employees to talk about how things are going. So it's a regular communication where once a week in some situations, once a month at minimum, the manager sits down with that one employee one-on-one and talks about how things are going. It's not enough to just do that once a year at the performance review. A good manager wants to keep regular contact with that employee. And a meeting like this is much different than me passing them in the hallway and saying, hey, how's your day going? That's not the same thing. Or even going into their office and saying, how was your day? How did this go? How is this happening? Do you have any questions? That's kind of me passing by. This kind of meeting is, I'm going to use the word formal, but it doesn't have to be formal. By formal, I mean that we're sitting down at a scheduled time, and that employee knows that they have my undivided attention for a half an hour or an hour, however long you choose. And we're going to sit down in that half an hour, and we're not just going to randomly talk about everything that's going on. I'm going to have an agenda. We're going to talk about things that we discussed the week prior or the month prior. There's a space for that employee to bring things to me with questions or issues. I'm really going to sit and look them in the eyes and say, how are you? And that's saying to them, I care about you. How are you? So this should not be underestimated. It's a really powerful process that leads to good management. So in this process, you'll see a work plan up here. That is how the manager prepares for the meeting. So just simple techniques to make sure that this meeting is, it's structured in some way. There's a link to this process called Guidelines for Effective Meetings. This is in the TouchStone library too. I think it's a good thing. If you don't have rules around meetings, then this could help your meetings be more effective. So this is creating the ongoing meeting agenda. There's a document here that's the ongoing meeting scheduler. I think most of us have calendars nowadays, but if this helps for the manager to see all in one place, like these are all my employees, these are the dates of all the meetings for the whole year, and these are the times. So this could be, 12 months, this could be weeks of the month, depending on how frequently you're deciding to have meetings like this. Or you could do all this in Outlook or some kind of calendaring that you have. But the idea is plan for it, decide for each employee what's the date and time of the meeting. And then down here is a custom form. That's the agenda form. So simple, has to be simple and straightforward. New items to discuss, things that need to be resolved, personnel issues, any reoccurring issues that need discussion, any other notes. And then down here is a cool agenda item. It says pick a process on the job description to review for accuracy. This agenda item here is helping the manager to reinforce the work that employee is doing on their job description. So if this is for the bookkeeper and one of the processes is payroll, we may decide this month that payroll is going to be the process of the month. And we're just going to talk about it. I'll tell the employee from this month to the next, review the payroll process, the documentation. As you do payroll, look at the tasks and make sure that they still work. Let me know if anything more can be added to them to make that you're doing that isn't in the documentation. So what this does is it reinforces the documentation with the employee, lets them know that I care about it as their manager, as the manager of the department. I care about that documentation. I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that documentation. It's important to the company. It's important to training, and I want you to know it's important. So they look at it. I totally congratulate them when they come to me and say, boy, this is missing or this could be better. So we're improving the quality. We're innovating it. And it can be pretty quick and easy if you choose one a month. By the end of the year, you could have had all the processes on the job description gone through and innovated and edited and made better. I had someone ask me the other day, well, what do you think about having, if we do a process review week once a week in January? Or once a year in January. For the whole week, we'll just have everyone focus on updating their processes. And I just had to pull myself up off the floor because that's so unrealistic. You can't let everything get outdated for the entire year. And if something gets outdated, then just don't pay attention to it until January when it gets innovated. That's just a recipe for all of the processes being outdated and unimportant. When one thing changes, it's got to be fixed right away. So this is a technique for this little area here. So when a manager sits with the employee once a week, once a month, and goes through things like this, how are things going? How are you? How's this work going? I noticed this problem. We spend 30 minutes or an hour once a month, twice a month, whatever you can fit in. Then that sets up for a good performance review. So that's how these two processes come together. Because if I'm discussing with that employee all throughout the year how things are going, what they need from me, how it could be better, letting them know I'm paying attention, letting them know I care, reviewing the processes on their job description down here, listening to them. If we're going through that all throughout the year, when we get to the performance review, it's just a no-brainer. I mean, you could, as the manager, you could fill that out in your sleep because you'd been talking to the employee about this all throughout the year, almost everything. You can have really impactful, meaningful comments to them, good and bad if it has to be. Really insightful, useful, not made up. And more importantly, the employee is not going to be surprised by anything because you've already been talking to them about it. There's no surprises. If there's any surprises by the time the performance review rolls around, then this one-on-one meeting has not been going very well. You haven't been doing it well enough. So let's go to the dashboard, and I'm going to show you how to use these processes or how a manager would use them on the dashboard. If you go all the way up here to account administration, and I'm going to go to user accounts, and I see all my users here on the user list. If you haven't set up your users on the user list, your employees, then the manager's not going to be able to effectively use these forms. The manager's not even going to have been set up. So make sure you've gone through this. It's pretty straightforward. You just go new user and you just add people. You make them administrators for high-level positions or just regular users that if you want to restrict their access. You give them a username, a password, first and last name. That's the only required fields. And then you go down and you just hit create. Pilmma members have unlimited users, so you can set up all your employees. The TouchStone's included in your membership, and all users are unlimited, so there's no reason not to do this, to go and set every employee up. So if I choose my name on the user list here, it's actually Michael's name, and then I go here to Control Panel, I'm going to give myself a control panel for Office Manager. So this is choosing Office, and I'm going to control, have people underneath a manager. And then, so I go back here to the dashboard. Because inside review, I've set my employees up, like this one's just this actual user set up who has a controller. Then I've John, who's the medical manager. So when you have those employees in a account administration control panel for a managerial position, those people show up here in this section called Management Review. Here's another way to look at it. This is the org chart. I have a control panel for this position, Management Review. So I'm going to see all these people on my dashboard. If they've been given control panels and set up in TouchStone, I'm going to see all these people because I manage them. These are the people that I have to do performance reviews for, that I have one-on-one meetings with, that I train, that I mentor. This is my department. If I had a control panel for lead attorney right here, then I would see all these people in Management Review. This person would see these people. So that's how the structure is set up in account administration. It's based on the org chart. So let's go back here to dashboard. So if I'm the office manager and I'm going to do a performance review for the bookkeeper for Sarah down here, I would go to my control panel. There it is. These are all the processes from my job description, all of them. They've been organized into groups, into categories. That's why it looks a little different than the job description. So right here, I can create groups like this one called Finance. This is called Management. This is called Human Resources. And then I can take processes and put them into those groups. So if I take this one, Performance Review, and I drag it all the way down here, now it's in this group called Management. And I could even take this management group and bring it to the top of the screen. And when I refresh, that default group goes away. So here are those two processes. There's the performance review, and then here's the one-on-one meeting process. They're here in my dashboard because they're on my job description. They're on the office manager's job description. So if I go here to performance review, then I see all the content that is in this process. Now, I may want to look at these work plans and kind of remind myself of what to do. I could do that. Sometimes if you only do performance reviews once a year, that's important to kind of review the steps. But I would definitely go down to the performance review forms. So this is the one that I created for the bookkeeper right here, performance review bookkeeper. So I would access this form, and this is an uploaded file. I would hit View File, and then up comes that document. So now I've already, on the Process Tools page, I already put all this in, the work from the job description. But here I'd go in and fill all these fields out. This is just a Word document that I'm filling out. So I fill out all this information, anything more that's been added, like you're giving grades here and you're writing comments. So I fill the whole thing out, and then I'd go File, Save As. So I'm saving this. You could save it as a PDF also, because once it's filled out, unless you're going to change it, you probably want to save it as a PDF. Yeah, there's PDF. So then I would save this, again, on my computer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this back to TouchStone. So I accessed the template, I filled it out, I'm going to save this as Sarah. That's the name of the person I'm reviewing. She's the bookkeeper. I go here to upload completed file. I find her performance review. There it is. It's a PDF now. It's not a Word document anymore. It's a PDF. Say OK, and then I save it. When I save it, it's date and time stamping it, and it's uploading that completed performance review back to TouchStone. We go back here to performance review in my control panel. Over here where it says completed, that's where I'm going to see that document. So every year that I do these performance reviews, if I'm choosing to keep it as a Word document, an uploaded file, I can fill it out, complete it for her for that year, upload that document as a PDF back. I could print it because once it's completed, I could print it and have her sign it even, scan it back in, and then upload the signed copy as a PDF if it's important, if that's part of your process. So now all my performance reviews for the bookkeeper right here are all going to be in this completed folder. And I would eventually have uploaded files for every single one of my employees. And when it's time to review them, I'd go and click and review them. This is another example. This is that uploaded custom form. So this is just another way to do it. It's another option. I click that custom form. Now I've got a copy of this custom form. Company name, and that's a little redundant, but you could fill out all these fields. These fields are all live now. I know I've filled it out because it's in my control panel, but I could put in my name right there. The review period could be 2019, or if you did reviews every 6 months, you could put in the review period. This is the work listing. So here I would have to put in the work listing. So this could be accounts receivable, and then I would give her a grade, and then I'd write comments. Then you'd go to the next work listing. So this is the next work item on the job description. So this is a way of completing it in a custom form and having this fillable form that you do right inside of TouchStone. Once you save this, it's going to date and time stamp it just like the uploaded file. And then if I hit this little button, it's going to create a PDF of this custom form. So you can still print it and bring it to the review meeting with you if you want to, because you can print a copy of the custom form, just like you could a Word document. So again, this is just another option. If you prefer to have it as an uploaded file in Word and then saved as a PDF, then in your process, just delete these forms because you don't really need them. This is that one that we pulled from the Pilmma. This is a document. So if I click this, it just looks a little different. It's not a Word document is an uploaded file. It's an actual document. So this is just, again, another option. If anyone is confused by all these options I'm presenting, send me an email and I can sit and go through it with you one-on-one and then help you decide what option is best for you. But this is the document tool. So this is where you'd put the employee's name, like these fields are all live. It's just not a Word document, it's a document inside of TouchStone. But it's the same idea. I can save this, and then this is saved back to TouchStone, and I can print it. So let's go back to the dashboard here. The second management process we talked about was that one-on-one meeting. So if I'm preparing for a one-on-one meeting that I'm having that week with my employees, same idea as performance review, I'd go here to this one-on-one meeting form, select it. Now I'm seeing the content that's in this process. I would probably go right down here to the one-on-one meeting form. Now when I click that, it's giving me a copy of this form, and I could save this as the employee's name. I can put in notes right here, just general notes if I want to. And here I list the items to discuss, things that I want to talk to Sarah about, resolve or identify any personal issues. So these fields are all live. So I'm filling this out, preparing for the meeting. Down here, I'd pick a process from the job description that I want to go over with her, and then I save it. So now I've just prepared for this meeting that I'm going to have with her. I can print this and bring it to the meeting with me. When I do this for real, I always have my iPad open. So I just, for people are used to me doing things that way, since we are TouchStone, it's common to have TouchStone open all over the place. So that's another way that you can do it. If it's open then, and I see items to discuss that I want to roll over to the next meeting, I can make notes right inside here of things that I want to add to the agenda for next time. You could always handwrite those and then go back into TouchStone and do it, but I find it easier just to enter it right into TouchStone. And if we go back here, this form is saved here in this completed folder. So here I could go back and look at what the meeting I had with Sarah back in April and what we talked about there. I can look at last week's meeting. I can view it and then add things to the new meeting. In these one-on-one meetings, it's good to keep things that you know you can talk about in the meeting, keep them for the meeting. So it's less interruptions for people. And you can teach your employees to do the same thing. They come to you with questions that, first of all, they can answer themselves if they just thought about it a little more. I always turn the question back on them. Go to TouchStone and figure that out. Think about it a little bit more and then bring it back to the meeting. So these are things that aren't urgent, like aren't going to stop work from happening. It's just stuff that we can wait for the meeting to talk about it. And then I'm not constantly having to say, hey, what about this? What about this? So what's this question here? And they're not coming to me with stuff like that because we save it all for the meeting. So you as the manager can have that agenda always ready to go here in the completed folder. Not there, but here. And then when you find things that you want to add to the agenda, I'm just clicking it from here, and then I can just add more things. And then when I save it, it's saving it. So this is just preparing for the meeting. So that's kind of technically how to use these processes in TouchStone. Even if you didn't want to use any of the dashboard functionality where you save things back to TouchStone, this is still the place to come to remind everyone of how to do that performance review, that performance review is necessary, that it has to be done. But these are just resources and tools for managers. I know we're out of time, so those of you who want to stick around, I'll hang out a few more minutes. Someone's asking about the colors, so I'll just show you that real quick. These processes are black because they've been marked as complete. So right here on the process tools page over here, this little button or flag's been clicked. So when you're done with the documentation, like you've merged things, moved things, edited things, and you're happy with how it looks and you're ready to like implement it, then you fill this little check box in and it turns the title black and gives a little check mark like you're seeing here. This process has not been marked as complete. It's blue because it's got a bunch of content in it that you see here. But when I'm ready to release it, it's good to go, people are going to use it, I flip this little flag and then it turns it black with the check mark. You can also unmark things as complete just by removing the check mark. So it's kind of satisfying when you're going through your documentation to mark things as complete because then that, it's done. You're not done using it, but it's you're finished with the documentation of it. There are a lot of other, I think I said this already, but I'll just repeat it because someone has a question. There are a lot of other managerial processes, not just these two, inside of the TouchStone library. So these other ones that you're seeing here are good and useful and helpful processes. Even these down here, the training processes, they're all here in this library. So look, if you haven't done this already, look through our library first and look for the things that you know either you do already or that you want to implement in the company. And then pull those things down. Be really committed to them, though. Don't just take it because it looks good. By committed, I mean committed to look at the content of it, like this one, employee lateness, review it, review what's inside of it, edit it and make it your own, take things out that you don't like, decide it's good, mark it as complete, so we're finished with this employee lateness process, and then implement it. So what that means is in your version of the one-on-one meeting or in a department meeting, you would sit down. If you're the owner of the company, this is easier, but you'd sit down with every manager in the whole company in a managerial meeting, which you should also be having, even if it's once a month. And you'd say, these are the not TouchStone processes, but these are the processes in TouchStone that we're going to start using. When an employee is late from here on out, this is how we're going to treat it. We're going to set up a one-on-one meeting. We're going to review the lateness policy with them. Everybody is going to get treated the same way when they show up late. This is the 9-step process for it. Let's talk about it. Let's go through it. What do you have to say about it? What does everyone think? Do you want to add something? It could be maybe 10 minutes that you talk to people about it. Now, boom, that's implemented. And you expect that every manager is going to use it. Do the same thing with the performance review process. Bring that into the next managerial meeting. Say, this is the performance review process. Everyone will get a review. They'll all happen this way. So implementing is really important to the success of your processes. Thanks for calling, everybody. Those of you who are requesting to go over this one-on-one, I'm going to email you directly. Everyone else, remember the drop-in sessions. There's a Pilmma drop-in session once a week, 9 Pacific time on Thursdays. If you have any questions about today's stuff and you didn't text me or you didn't message me, then bring it to the meeting tomorrow, because I'm happy to talk about that then, or kind of go through your example of performance review and how you want to do it. So remember, that's a reoccurring meeting Thursdays at 9, and then we'll have another mastermind next month. Thanks for coming, everybody. Bye-bye.